Hello and welcome back after this very interesting day of microsegmentation. So we're at the closing panel. I think it was interesting also with the breakout sessions. And we have some questions, right? So that we will go through them. So first introduction, I'm Mario Procopio, founder of ProCISO. And here with me in the studio we have Tim. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you. I'm Tim Lamop. I'm a principal cloud architect for Cyber Defense, and I work with any and every question related to the cloud in client environments, migrating to integrating, evolution, innovation, etc.
Very good. So connected and set online we have Avishai. Maybe you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, Avishai Wool, AlgoSec CTO and co-founder. By the way, I cannot see either of you two on my screen. Is that on purpose or an accident?
That's an additional challenge, an added challenge for you, Avishai. Ariel, can you introduce yourself very quickly?
Hi, Ariel Zeitlin, CTO of Garipor.
Very good, very good. Okay, great. So we have collected some questions from the sessions we had today. And I think we have one interesting question would be, how would you approach the many policy changes that are needed to implement microsegmentation? So Avishai, I would say, could you answer to that question?
Could you repeat the question?
How would you approach the many policy changes that are needed to implement microsegmentation?
Any policy changes? Okay. Well, from my point of view, I think the key starting point is really to discover what's there and to understand what's there. And once you have discovered and annotated the existing traffic that you have in the data center, then you can actually write policy to support that and correlate that policy that you have inside your data center with the policy that you need to deploy on the perimeter and outside of the data center, which is going to be necessary for ongoing maintenance. So really discovery and understanding of what's there is crucial. And this is one of the great benefits of the combined Guardicore and AlgoSec offering, where you get the best of both worlds here, with the discovery coming from the Guardicore agents deployed inside the system and the presentation of the various applications and the connections between them represented in AlgoSec. So yeah, that's how I would view this.
Very good, very good. All right, so we have a very interesting question here. So it's quite technical. Microsegmentation is not a new concept, right? And was always very hard to achieve. So what has changed now that can make this happen? Ariel, maybe you want to answer this one.
Yeah, sure. I think it in a way connects to the question before. I think that one of the challenges that was always there with microsegmentation, as I said, not a new concept, is that the amount of heavy lifting required for implementation of segmentation with a firewall was very big on the organization. You needed to basically do quite a lot of steps that require different things. You need to create separate VLANs, which means you need to configure different equipment types. Sometimes they're not the same, and they're not in the same person manages them. So the networking team had to work really hard to just create the networking changes. Then you needed to take an application, move it to a new VLAN, which is basically requiring to re-IP it, which the application people are very not happy doing. Because production applications may be running for a long time there. It just takes a huge effort. You need a very big stick to force the application people to change the running of a production application. Definitely will be a production downtime involved. And then only then you have traffic between two applications moving through a choke point where you can put a firewall. And then you're lacking the context to define what are the dependencies and what should, and then the people need to actually either review firewall logs or do some other sort of a manual configuration. So I think it worked. Segmentation really worked where there was a very big risk or a very big stick, which is compliance or something like that. Now, what I think, and then you need to, as the previous question probably suggested, you need to chase this state when applications change, when a new server, a new database is added for the cluster, or a new web server scaled up to support holiday traffic and so on. So so we need to move and constantly update those IPs and ports and so on. So I think what changes with the software-based approach like Guardicore, and you see most of the vendors today are actually going that way. It's becoming distributed and in many cases host-based. And what changes is that almost none of that is required. You don't need to change the network because the network can be as flat as you want. It will be still segmented. You don't need to change the application because you don't change the network, you need to re-IP anything. You don't need the application down. So all this effort goes. And then because the policy is based on visibility and the policy is based on abstract labels, you don't write IPs, you don't write anything like that. It's actually, it becomes much smaller and easier to maintain. So adding a new server or adding another 5 web servers doesn't require any policy change. So it becomes very easy to maintain. And I think this is fundamentally what changes.
Yeah. Yeah, indeed. It gives that practical benefit, that we discussed previously today as well. Okay, Tim or no, Avishai, you have any comments on this topic?
No, actually, you pretty much said it all.
Yeah,
for this question.
He did cover it. Indeed.
I fully agree.
Indeed. All right, so let's look at this other question, which I think is very interesting. And now, out of all the investments in cyber, why would you think micro-segmentation should be a priority? And whoever wants to jump in, please. This is a really open question, interesting. Why should this be a priority?
Well, I think some of the answer has been covered today in several of our sessions. One of the most important reasons will be protection against ransomware. Mm-hmm. Micro-segmentation is not really an option anymore. It's a necessity if you want to battle the risk of becoming affected by a ransomware piece of software. If you want to protect against that, you need to have some form of micro-segmentation, because nowadays it's not really a if, but a when you might get infected. And in that event, you need micro-segmentation to limit the damage.
Yeah. Yeah, I mentioned it this morning. I consider it actually one of the basic security measures and segmentation in general. Then micro-segmentation actually facilitates that, I would say. Ariel, Avishai, would you like to comment on this?
Just maybe, I think that potentially I'm biased, but I think that a lot of organizations have decent security controls around emails and their endpoint solutions, and I would argue that spending the next dollar on your flat network, which a lot of organizations have today, is the better investment of this dollar than marginal advancement of the existing solutions in other areas. That's why I think it makes sense business-wise. The impact will be definitely significant.
All right, very good. Another very practical question that I like a lot. We say we plan to migrate our firewalls from one vendor to another. So should we use that opportunity to change, to implement micro-segmentation? Avishai, maybe you want to answer this question.
I think it's an excellent opportunity because if you're doing some kind of network architecture to change vendors or to move data centers or whatever, that automatically has built-in time spent by IT teams, by networking teams. Maybe there's budget for this. Maybe there's planned downtime. It's a project, and it's a good time to make changes that change the infrastructure and improve your security. So if you're doing any kind of major migration, you may as well plan your migrated to environment so that it's well protected, including micro-segmented and zoned and so forth. So it's an excellent opportunity to make these changes.
Super, super. So we have a question which came in just now from the audience. So what is your experience with environments where agents are not welcome? So for example, OT, and industrial environments. What is your reply to that? Avishai,
I can take that.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So if you're in an environment where you cannot or don't want to deploy agents, I would rely on the infrastructure. So you can do a lot of micro-segmentation using the infrastructure. If you're in a cloud-based environment or in a virtualized environment like ACI or NSX, those platforms have filtering technology baked into the networking, and you can deploy policy without deploying firewalls or making routing changes or any of the difficult things that Ariel mentioned and we talked about before, and still achieve excellent segmentation using the capabilities of the network. And you have software-defined networks now in all modern data centers, then that becomes an option.
Very good. Yeah, we covered this as one of the use cases previously this morning as well.
Maybe in addition to that,
yeah.
I mean, there are many different ways to segment and or micro-segment certain IT environments. It doesn't necessarily always have to. Let me put this a different way. If you use an agent, you're talking about the OS level and above. You can, if the situation requires that, limit your segmentation approach to just the network.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. If that's a limitation, then
yeah,
of course. Very interesting. All right. There is, all right. Another one from the audience just came in. Let's look at this one. So while discussing micro-segmentation, we are very business application centric. But what about infrastructure applications like Active Directory, SIEM, SCOM, NAJOS, antivirus backups, etc., which breaks micro-segmentation by requiring access to everything? How do you suggest we handle these kind of applications in a micro-segmented world?
I can try.
Yeah. Okay, great.
I think that first of all, it requires access from not everything but a lot. Definitely on specific ports. So just limiting the ports that you allow will reduce the attack surface. If you lock down the processes, it can even further reduces the attack surface. So I don't think it breaks micro-segmentation. Micro-segmentation actually a very good protection technology approach for those. And from our experience, this is one of the first to start in many of our customer environments, and we have like templates for this that help you do it almost through a click of a button. So I would argue the other way around.
Yeah, I totally agree there, Ariel. When you're writing the policy for any kind of micro-segment, and that servers in that segment require connectivity to or from central management systems, I don't know, Active Directory, Nagios, etc., all these types, or Windows Update or what have you, you're going to see those flows, you're going to discover them, and they're going to be baked into the policy that protects that segment. It's entirely legitimate. If you look at it from a business application point of view, what we have in the Atlas system, which is all about business application connectivity, we have this concept of a shared application where you have, let's say, your Active Directory application is owned by certain people and has its own servers, and it has many subscribers. All the other business applications subscribe to this application, require connectivity to it, and so forth. So we have this in our model as a concept where every application that requires access to this other general application can indicate that they're a subscriber and so forth. So there's shared responsibility between the people that manage the, let's say, the Active Directory system and the people that manage the, let's say, billing application that is a subscriber of the Active Directory service, it depends who's in charge of writing the policy rules for the segments. Both of these teams need to collaborate, but it's definitely something that we've dealt with and can be represented and is very standard. In fact, everybody is doing it.
Very good. Tim, you wanted to?
Yeah, I'm just thinking, I'm not sure if I agree with the statement entirely that those types of applications break microsegmentation. I think it kind of depends on how far you want to go with microsegmentation, because you can define policies that limit communication between AD and a set of other applications and isolate those different process streams. So in the event one of those communication channels on either end gets compromised, you are able to lock down that communication and prevent that communication from spreading to the other processes. However, that scenario does require agents because you're talking about the application level segmentation. This wouldn't just be network segmentation.
Great. Super. So thanks a lot to our panelists. I think it's time to close. And yeah, Giels, maybe you want to send a final goodbye to everybody.
You can take my place.
Thank you.
Yeah.
With that, we have reached the end of our program. I would like to thank our panelists, of course, Mario, Tim, Avishai, and Ariel remotely. Thank you very much for your valuable time and also information that you brought today. I would like to point out to the audience that the platform will be available for at least another month, and that all the recordings and the contact will be available after this afternoon. I would like to also extend my gratitude to the production team here at Orange Cyber Defense and the Orange Cyber Defense team and our partners AlgoSec and Guardicore of making this possible. This is the end. I thank you, I salute you, and have a great afternoon.